Rico Design's Pompon yarn seems to be the knitter's favourite choice of this type of yarn because of the quality and the wide range of colours that it comes in. It's knit in garter stitch with 3.5 or 4mm needles. There are some basic instructions inside the ball band for knitting a scarf, but many knitters still struggle to understand how to actually knit with this yarn. The basic idea is to knit your stitches on the strand between each pom-pom. You don't actually pull the pom-pom itself through any stitches. Now the instructions simply say to cast on using the 2 needle method, but there are still several ways to cast on with 2 needles, so the instructions aren't all that helpful. Let's start by making a slip knot in one of the strands, 2 or 3 pom-poms along from the end. Most people seem to suggest casting on 2 stitches per strand using the knit-on method, like this. Holding this pom-pom down and out of the way as best you can, knit into the stitch and cast on by putting it back on the left-hand needle. However, I personally found that the stitches were quite tight doing it this way, and therefore the first row of knitting was tricky. Also, the pom-poms themselves were a bit squashed. Another cast-on method I saw said to cast on with just 1 stitch per strand between each pom-pom, but I found the edge then looked too loose and messy. So I'm going to show you my preferred method, which I should credit to the Sheep Shop in Pitlochry, who had a video explaining it. Make the slip knot as before. We'll still be aiming to cast on 2 stitches per strand, but the first of the pair is done by wrapping the yarn from the back to the front, sliding it off, twisting it and sliding it back on again. You then insert your needle into that stitch and you cast on using the knit-on method. We go to the next strand and do the same again. Wrap the yarn around, slide it off, twist and slide back on again, and knit into that stitch and cast it on. Wrap, turn and knit. Wrap, turn and knit. By casting on in this way, I found that the stitches weren't too tight. The first row of knitting was quite easy to do, and the pom-poms themselves don't end up looking squashed and out of shape. Keep going in this way until you have 12 stitches on the needle, which is what Rico recommend for knitting a scarf. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and this will be our last. This gives you 6 pom-poms for the width, but of course you can make it wider or narrower as you see fit. So to start the first row of knitting, we're going to use that same piece of strand that we were just working with. Insert the needle and wrap it round and knit your first stitch. To do the next one, insert the needle, but this time we're going to use the next strand, so you need to hold this pom-pom down and out of the way whilst you wrap the yarn around the needle. And knit as normal. This stitch is going to be made using that same piece of strand. So by doing this, we're still keeping to the general principle of knitting with 2 stitches per strand. So hold the pom-pom out of the way, wrap the yarn around and knit. Hold the pom-pom down, knit one and knit two. Hold this pom-pom down and out the way, knit one, knit two. Hold this pom-pom down, knit one, knit two. Now the tip to remember is when you get to the last stitch, you're going to be knitting the last stitch of this row and the first stitch of the next row with the same piece of strand. So hold the pom-pom down as you knit, wrap the yarn around, finish the row and start knitting this row with that same piece of strand. And in this way you'll find that you keep the edges nice and straight. As I'm knitting this row, I'm finding that the stitches are sliding along much easier and I'm going to be able to settle into a good rhythm now. I've now knit a few rows to show you both the effect of the pom-poms and how to cast off. I found that when it comes to casting off, working 2 stitches per strand isn't so good. The stitches were too tight and it was pulling the scarf out of shape. So this is how I like to cast off. I'm going to knit the first stitch using the same strand that I just finished with. But from here on, I'm only going to work 1 stitch per strand. So I insert the needle, place the pom-pom down and out of the way, wrap the yarn around, knit the stitch and pass the first stitch over the second. And we repeat this process. Place the pom-pom down, wrap it around, knit the stitch, but this time, before I actually pass the first stitch over the second, I'm going to try and push the pom-pom through from the back to the front of the work. Then I'll pass the stitch over. I'm going to do that with every other stitch. For me, this just helped to even up the pom-poms. So that time we left the pom-pom at the back of the work, and this time we'll bring it through before we actually finish the cast off. Nearly there. There, the last one. And you can see you have a fairly neat cast off edge there. Cut the yarn 2 or 3 pom-poms down, thread the end through the last stitch to secure it, and then weave in the ends as best you can. And that's how to knit with pom-pom yarn.